So then...
I think Michael Sam needs to go to a team with veteran leadership, with a strong coaching system intact. He really needs to go to like a really solid organization, maybe Pittsburgh, Seattle, San Francisco. I think San Francisco would be a good fit.
Of course you're going to say the Bears. Of course, no hometown bias there, Sernus. Right. None from you, I'm sure. But I mean, but also look at what happened to Chris Kluwe, the Vikings punter, who was cut because of the homophobic coaches he had.
He was also one of the worst rated punters in the league.
Yeah, there's a little it's a little iffy there. His stats in the season before he got cut weren't his best.
He was terrible.
Yeah.
The season before that he was good, but
yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, there's still you can read the Deadspin article. The fact that the coaches were pretty homophobic about stuff.
But the owner of the team even came out in support of Chris Kluwe personally. Just because the owner does it, the owner doesn't necessarily have all the power. He's not the one doing the day-to-day stuff. He's just making a lot of money. That's really what he does. I mean, you look at you can look at guys like look at owners who are hands-off. Mm-hmm. Ziggy Wilf is more of a hands-off owner than a hands-on owner. He's not a Jerry Jones. By no means is he just like a hands-off, I'm not going to... I just buy the team. He's not like a Randy Lerner. Mm-hmm. But he is closer to Randy Lerner than he is Jerry Jones for sure. So I think I think that he can say whatever he wants. I mean, all these owners can say whatever they want. They're not the ones picking the players in the draft. They're not the ones making the final 53-man roster cuts. So, I mean, they can say whatever they want, really. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I mean... What does it matter? Just because Ziggy Wilf was in favor of Chris Kluwe, maybe he could have had enough power to say, I want to make sure you keep this player forever. I want him to be loved forever. But I mean, you can't do that as an owner if you want to win and you want to be successful, right? No? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to wonder how much of a discrepancy there is between what goes on behind closed doors in the coach's office and what, the coaches come out and say to the media in press conferences.
Right. I mean, but the thing is, if you read that Deadspin article, it really just paints a picture of these the homophobic coaches, but also the horrible coaches who didn't do anything to stop this other coach.
Yeah. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just throwing that out there.
Just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, what about the Dolphins situation? I mean, Jonathan Martin and Richie Incognito, Mike Pouncey, and John Jerry are the three players who are named in pretty much in harassing Jonathan Martin like this, and the amount of homophobic slurs that they just spewed between each other. I mean, how is that okay in any way, shape, or form? I mean, how much?
Because he was sending it back.
But could
Jonathan Martin was sending this stuff right back to them?
If these things happen in an NFL locker room, I'm not saying
these things happen in any work environment.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that it's the example situation. It's not like every single locker room is like the Dolphins.
Probably they are, honestly.
Yeah, I'd argue that they're somewhat similar at least.
I think so. I think the Dolphins are an extreme, though.
These are testosterone-fueled guys. Yeah. They're gonna... pick on each other.
So how is Michael Sam going to survive if they're going to if they're going to use homophobic slurs when picking on straight men? Uh-huh. Don't you think they're going to use homophobic slurs when picking on the one player who came out as gay?
Well, that comes back to the point where you got to have strong leadership from veteran players and a strong coaching foundation that, if it may happen, but it's going to happen to a small extent. They're not going to let any of that fly.
And I think context is important there.
I think so too.
If I'm making fun of you and calling you names and you're giving it back to me, it's not really bullying. It's just us joking around as guys. That's what we do.
Right.
If there's one person who happens to be a homosexual and everyone's bragging on him for being a homosexual, then that's a problem. If they're making fun of him because he's, wearing a goofy shirt or something like that, or just
you messed up in practice, ha ha ha.
There's a fine line there, and I think it's clear. It's clear.
Not a fine. It's very clear the difference between ragging on somebody for being a homosexual, which is obviously wrong,
right,
and ragging on somebody because he's your teammate and you joke around a little bit.
Yes, but it's very. It's not.
Did they
so
go too far
with
Jonathan Martin?
Yes.
Maybe.
I don't think there needs to be a maybe there. I mean, I think it clearly was too far with what happened to Jonathan Martin, considering Jonathan Martin supposedly attempted suicide, considering he felt the need to step away from the game. I mean, the guy's no dummy. He went to Stanford, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know who else went to Stanford?
Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
But also adding on to that, when it's one-on-one, and then I would say it's more of joking around. But in the Jonathan Martin case, it was a 3-on-1. So I'd say at that point it kind of turns into a little bit of a more bullying situation.
But in essence, if that's what most locker rooms are like in the NFL, couldn't it become a 53-on-1 situation?
No.
I'm not saying but the thing is, you're just as wrong if you know what's going on and you're not stopping anything and you're just a bystander.
Know how bad Jonathan Martin was getting it? Did they realize that?
I think they knew to a point.
Did they know that he was suicidal? Because again, he's giving it back. They think they're just joking around with somebody.
I'm sure they knew plenty of it to a point.
Yeah, to a point though.
I mean, but still, they knew something. It's not like they knew nothing. It's not like they batted a blind eye to it, right?
I think it's going to be important with the Michael Sam thing that they communicate. It's going to be vital is that, they communicate a little bit better than that. If he's feeling threatened or something like that, he needs to communicate with some of the leaders in the locker room.
Yeah. I mean, okay, but what if these leaders are a problem? Supposedly, I mean, you look at Richie Incognito's and you look at Mike Pouncey's, and they were supposed leaders.
He will not be drafted by a team with Richie Incognito type leaders in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, because you don't know that very well could happen. We don't know all the inner workings of every single locker room. We don't,
but the general manager should.
The general manager, but
the assistant coach
they didn't.
Yeah.
They clearly didn't, and they didn't know enough in Miami, right?
That's a different case. They didn't know that this guy had these psychological issues that they did. They know Michael Sam is a homosexual. They understand that, hey, we have a bunch of bigots in our locker room. Probably we don't want to hire somebody who's going to get ragged on, or we don't want to sign somebody who's going to get ragged on.
Theoretically, won't every locker room, though? I don't think...
on the other hand, they say, okay, well, guess what? We've got Peyton Manning in here. We've got all these... leader type people. We got a good coaching staff. We got Pete Carroll as a head coach, something like that. Like a really strong leader, really strong leaders. Then you can bring them in.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think Michael Sam will have a chip on his shoulder, I think, and I think he will do very well in the NFL.
I hope he does.
I wish him all the best. I really am rooting for him. I want to support him every step of the way, because it's going to be very tough on him. I hate that it's going to be very tough on him, because it almost shouldn't be. No. I don't think it's fair on him that it should be that tough.
Not,
But at the same time, he kind of knew it was coming, because he knew what would happen if he came out as gay going into the NFL draft. Really, it was also. I mean, maybe I'm also a big sports media guy. Did you guys happen to follow how ESPN broke this news with Michael Sam?
I did not.
It was very old school the way they did it. They knew they were kind of like teasing some sort of breaking news a little bit. Then it's like they have their breaking news. Do they have the interview set up with Michael Sam? Yes. Do they have analysts talking about what's going on here? Yes. They had everything set up just how they needed to. Nothing leaked out. It was really remarkable how they did it. It was like this. It was almost like it happened 10, 12 years ago, because pre-Twitter and stuff. So, I think it was really great. And then he was the cover story on in Sports Illustrated, though that has come under fire a little bit. I mean, I think I really wish him all the best. I don't think anyone has anything against him, but it's
it's also really interesting because part of this, I think, was because of did you happen to read a Grantland article called Dr. V's Magical Putter?
No,
it was by a guy by the name of Caleb Hannon, and this article really was well written, and it was getting all these like retweets. People were loving it. I wrote a couple paragraphs, and I was like, yawn, not really for me. Then a firestorm comes down because this woman who invented this magical putter that really helped players which really helped players putting. She was a male to female transgender person. So the thing is, he kind of, in the process of this story, he outed her to one of her investors, and she committed suicide actually, and that was the end of this, and that was the end of the article. It's really, and the thing is, it's really interesting because when all this happened, what ended up happening was Bill Simmons wrote an apology, Christina Carl, who works for ESPN, wrote an apology. I'm amazed that it got out like that, but it's still up on Grantland. They're not taking it down because it's like learning from your mistakes. You're not just going to like hide it and stuff. But it's like, it's just really fascinating and stuff because it really shows kind of what it's like for us and things. And so it was like, it really was a fascinating story. And we don't know that much because it was like very secretive and things. But it's if you read it, it's a really well written piece, outside of the issues that come with mistakes about writing about a transgender person and things like that. But it's just fascinating about how the media took it and was like, and just like at first they were loving the piece, then when they realized, when it was really getting outside of just sports media and really into like regular media and regular people, it really just was trashed completely, and it was horrible. The guy who wrote it got death threats for what he did.
Oh wow,
really? Well, also actually, so I don't know if you heard about this. I doubt either of you watch Disney Channel. I highly doubt that. All the time?
I haven't since.
So unfortunately, we do not get it on campus. But so there's this show on there called Good Luck Charlie. It's a very popular show, and in their final season, they had an episode where Charlie's this like little 4-year-old girl who had a friend come over. The friend had 2 moms, lesbian parents. I'm very surprised the Disney Channel did this because they're usually not so progressive and things like that. They're very safe, but they had this. After the fact, this little 4 or 5-year-old girl got death threats.
Really?
Because on her show, a character that she played had a friend that was also someone who was acting, played by and who had 2 parents who were both women, who were actors, and people are giving this little girl death threats. How horrible can people be?
It's 2014, people. Seriously.
Yeah, but that's the problem because there are too many people. I'm not saying it's a very small minority, but there are too many people still living in 1954 that it's going to ruin 2014 and beyond for a lot of people, and it's not fair to anyone. Really, it's not fair to anyone.
Yeah.
It's tough. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, you're awfully quiet.
Yeah.
To be honest, I agree. It's kind of mind blowing that people would write such horrible things to a 4 or 5-year-old girl.
Yeah.
But I guess in parts where in 2014 we've progressed to where we want to be in parts, but in other parts there's still a lot that needs to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It should be really interesting what happens with the NFL draft coming up with Michael Sam, and it should be really interesting to see how society starts taking it as more and more. Just recently I just read actress Ellen Page, who was in Juno.
Yeah,
she came out as gay, and it's just more and more people aren't afraid to come out publicly, which I think is great. It used to take years; people never knew and stuff. So it's really, really great. Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, no matter where Sam goes, his teammates got to let him know right away that they got